Are you on them or it's just slow. Yeah. Well, we are live. I don't know if Tanner got his site up, but I'm sure he's watching, and we are actually a couple of minutes late. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Yes, yes, I can.
And then, yes, and I got the confirmation from Tanner. So, Amy, we are with you first, or do you want to start?
Well, we usually introduce us before we start. Do we have, and we have the PowerPoint, or you're going to wait on that?
Yes, so what we'll do is, so this is United Medical ACO diabetes program, so I'm going to actually start sharing my screen. I have Amy and Donna with me, and here we go. So I'll be sharing the screen. Okay.
Do you want me to start? Okay. So
My name is Kemal Erkan. I'm the chairman of United Medical ACO. As I was trying to get us into the transition, the introduction. So we are in a different setup today, and we want to make sure that everyone is able to hear us. So Amy, we are,
okay. So thank you for attending our wellness webinar, our Wednesday. This is the first one of 2021, and you see up the slide now is our wellness program team. So Kemal is our chairman, who you've just met, and we have Donna, who's the director of clinical integration. Dr. Hundal is the head of our program, endocrinologist. Tim McHugh is the physical therapist. He will be on with us in 2 weeks at our next webinar. And then I'm Amy, dietitian, and then Jackie, our social worker.
and we have Donna Gonco.
Yes, she did mention me. Good evening, everyone. And we're excited that you're here with us to start off the new year. We do have a whole list of topics that we'll be going through with you every 2 weeks throughout the year. So we hope that you'll join in so that you can learn more on how best to treat your disease.
Mm-hmm. So Amy, we have done this last year, 2020. We started, and I think maybe one of the silver lining of the COVID-19 was for us to be able to focus on the events that we are doing, similar events that we are doing. So what's our schedule for the 2021, if you want to just go through that a little bit?
So we're going to continue talking about all the things diabetes related. So we have endocrinologists coming to talk. We're going to do some more specialized talks coming up this year on type 1 and CGMs. Myths about diabetes we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about some alternative and traditional medicines later this year. So we're going to try and nuance our way. After last year, we talked about some bigger topics. So this year, we're going to get a little bit more detailed. And we will have tonight. I am the guest speaker for tonight. And then next week, we'll continue with some more speakers. And there's me, today's panelist. All right. So all right. So our first topic today is food and nutrition trends for 2021. I wanted to start with this because everybody's new year, new you, which I always say, what's wrong with the old you? Just celebrate yourself. So everybody's talking about the new diets that they're on, what's happening. There's always new trends every year. So one of the big trends, to jump right into it, is that consumers are moving away from traditional diets. Some of the articles I read about this, and in talking to patients in the beginning of this year, the end of last year, is that with everything that's been going on and the stress and the pandemic, they don't really want to follow this I eat this food, this sort of strange, I only eat cabbage soup, or I eat liver on Mondays and chicken on Wednesdays, banana on Tuesdays. They want to follow something that makes sense. So something that is more whole food. And we'll talk about vegetarianism. That is also growing in popularity. And of course, keto and things like that are continuing to be popular. The global pandemic has also made changes in what we're eating and how we're shopping. So remember last year when this started, it was hard to get groceries. Nobody knew what they were doing in the grocery store. There were a lot of shortages and things. So trends tie in with the pandemic. So people are looking for immunity boosters, what foods are going to keep them healthy. Localism, so because of the economy, there are a lot of people who want to support their local economy. So what food is grown here? What food is packaged here? Is this manufacturer supported in my community? And how can I support them? And then climate change continues to be a big topic of conversation. So people are further looking into, is growing this food bad for the climate? Is it bad for the planet? How does this company help protect the planet? Do they use less plastic? Do they produce less emissions? Do they have a smaller footprint? So that's something that people are researching. There's been a lot of Googling about in terms of carbon footprint for companies and who's the best, who are the 10 most responsible companies in with that. Could I, any comment or next slide? Okay, so more whole foods, as I said, looking more into, rather than eating chicken lunch meat or chicken hot dogs, but chicken, and less diety foods in terms of lunch meat or diet cheese, but whole cheese, whole foods. Less focus on celebrity dieting. So less of a focus on this person is saying, eat this, this, and this on these days, and don't combine fruits and vegetables, or only eat pork on Saturday. More taking in real nutrition, which is nice because we're not the same as celebrities. So just because it works for a celebrity doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Supplements, there's also a less focus on that. There still is the focus on supplements in terms of immunity boosters. People are still wondering what vitamins they can take to keep them healthy, but less of a focus on taking supplements outside of that and to lose weight. Flexitarian diets. So some of you might be familiar with those. They've been around for a couple of years, but they're coming back. I really like a flexitarian diet. I think it's probably one of the healthiest way to eat. All a flexitarian is, if you don't know, it's someone who is a vegetarian sometimes, meaning they don't eat meat with every meal. So they're not a vegetarian because they might eat meat occasionally, but they are flexitarian in that they can go both ways. So it certainly is a very healthy way to eat. Meal kits are huge. You've probably seen ads and commercials for things like HelloFresh, Purple Carrot, Sun Warrior. Blue Apron is a big one. So if you're not familiar with those, you can usually get a deal on 3 days, and then that's how they hook you in. So you get a package of everything that you need for a recipe. So if you need a quarter teaspoon of pepper, you get a quarter teaspoon of pepper. If you need an egg, you get an egg, and then it comes with the recipe. So some people like the variety because it gives you different recipes than you might not do at home. The concern from other people is it's a lot of packaging. I'll be honest, I looked at them and I thought, well, I already have pepper. What do I want a quarter teaspoon of pepper for? I have a dozen eggs. I don't need an egg. But for people who don't know how to cook, who don't always have a lot of groceries, they can be pretty handy. From a nutrition side, some are healthier than others. So you can look at the nutrition information when you go to order them. So there are some, if you're trying to lose weight and you're eating a meal that's a 900 calorie meal, it might not be a good idea. And there's some that are heart healthy. There's some for diabetes. So there are different options. There's vegan ones. And then an interest in functional nutrition. So we spoke earlier about this. So functional nutrition is something that, a food that does something for you. So it has a purpose, whether it's to boost your immunity, boost your mental health, strengthen your bones, strengthen your muscles. So there's a big interest in how, and it goes back to that whole food. So what is this whole food and what can it do for me? So if I'm going to have a kale smoothie in the morning, what are these superpowers that it's in kale? What's it going to do to me? It's going to strengthen my immune system. It's good for my bones. It's good for my heart. So it's an interesting thing. Unfortunately, there can be false claims with foods because there isn't a lot of regulation with claims that can go on the front of a box. Generally, a company has to be sued for it to get removed. So they can say that it does this and it does this. If it says something like it's a high fiber food, it has to be over a certain grams to say that. But if it says it can help your hair grow or build muscle, they can just make that claim. So it's something you have to be careful with. And you have to look at their studies. Like people take Activia, for example, to help their digestive system. And it does work, but you have to eat a certain amount of yogurt every day to get the results that the company advertises. So if you're just eating one every other day, you might not get the results you want. So environmental, moral, health drivers. So these are some big ones in terms of climate change impact, as I talked before, packaging and production. So, and I spoke ahead on the introduction slide about this. So I think it's interesting in terms of where we are, you know, where I hear the focus of our people, are they starting to move away from more chain restaurants, fast food, are they looking into community supported agriculture, where you purchase a share and then you pick up your share every week or every other week of fruits, vegetables. A lot of people are buying part of a cow or part of a pig from a local farmer. So you know exactly what this animal is eating. It gets wrapped and you can keep it in your freezer. So they are predicting that we'll see growth of some things like that. Will it last all year? Or is this something people are thinking about now? That I don't know. There has been some larger organizations like Harvard a couple of years ago made a push to start doing more veggie burgers instead of beef every day because of climate concerns. So there are some things more on a national level because of that. So I expect we'll see that continuing to grow. All right, thank you. And finally, so last year it was cauliflower is the new kale. Now they say kelp is going to be the new kale. I don't know, Donna or Kemal, if either one of you ever has had kelp. Or if you ever want to eat kelp. So seaweed. I know I've had seaweed in my sushi and dried seaweed, but I haven't had a nice pile of it as a snack or on my plate or in a smoothie or anything like that. I'm a recovering picky eater, I'll confess. So I don't know if I want to.
Are you saying kiwi or?
Kelp, like okay. Seaweed.
Mm-hmm. So that's healthy?
It is healthy. Okay. So it has a lot of vitamins and minerals that you get in the ocean. Like algae is actually very healthy. I know. I don't know if I'd want to eat it. This is one prediction though. So other possible foods they expect to really grow are microgreens, watercress, daikon radishes, Swiss chard, and rutabaga. So there was, one of the things they didn't talk about is there was a push in March, and I'll be interested to see what happens with this, to get a lot of your own food because people couldn't find things. So these container gardens that you can grow in your house, and they're towers. So you could buy these small, and almost like a mini greenhouse in your house, and grow all of these foods, and they grow much faster. They're smaller than something you grow outside traditionally. That was big. People were getting their own chickens so they could have their own eggs. That was another. I just talked to somebody yesterday.
Well, they can do that if they live in the city limits.
Well, so some townships have rules. I just found out there's a town not far from here where you can only have, you're allowed to have 12 chickens. So, and there are people in New York City with chickens. So you're not allowed to have roosters. That I know, because roosters are noisy.
Okay, well, so Donna, what's the difference between chicken and rooster?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Donna would probably know that better than I.
Yes, I grew up down in Lower Delaware. I have a lot of family who actually still has chickens and other other animals that they grow or that they raise to this day. Actually, one of my cousins just posted about her dog herding in her chickens today. So
I told you that she would know that.
yeah, they do, and they collect their own eggs every day, and I know a lot of people that prefer the fresh eggs over going to the store and getting the eggs.
Well, I think they taste better.
In counties, that's fine. So I know in Newcastle County, there's a rule that you cannot have certain animals, but as long as they should check their county limits.
Yes.
Yes, that is true. I know I had somebody not far from me had a chicken because I kept seeing the rooster when I was running. It would make a lot of noise in the morning. And there were also some peacocks a couple of years ago wandering around. So there are people do keep a variety. These foods, whether kelp does become the next superfood, all of these foods they're talking about are really powerful with nutrition. I mean, the bottom line is to really eat a variety of vegetables in a variety of colors. So one of the things I talked about was immunity boosters, but I didn't talk about what are they. And really it's a variety of vegetables and fruits in a variety of colors. So all fruits and vegetables have vitamin C. A bell pepper has almost 8 times the vitamin C of an orange. So it's a really good thing to enjoy. A lot of my patients tell me, well, I'm just taking emergency in the winter. And I said, well, why don't you eat your fruits and vegetables? Because they're going to work better with the vitamin C. So getting in, there's something called phytochemicals or phytonutrients that are in plants. And they're these compounds, and there's many that are undiscovered, hundreds, thousands, that they work together, a lot of them, so they're not going to be as good in a vitamin. If you're taking it, well, this vitamin has everything I could get. It's not going to work as well as a plant. So, and that's really to the point about the people who like the eggs, is the eggs are much fresher. So they haven't been sitting on a supermarket shelf for a long time. And they're much more yellow too. When you see the yolk, they're very bright and vibrant. So, and some of that has to do with their feed too, whatever it is that their owner is feeding them. So getting in fresh food, locally grown food, it's less time on the supermarket shelf, is going to help your immune system, besides things like sleep and exercise and lowering your stress level.
So Amy, we are going to do the diabetes myths and facts, right? Myths versus facts.
Yes, I'm just going to adjust my volume. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I can adjust mine here as well to see.
Okay.
I thought maybe it was just me because I can hear you just fine, Amy, but I was having trouble hearing.
Okay, good. Oh, yes, I can hear you. So, okay. So it's come on.
Okay, so I'm going to actually just turn it up all the way. Is it better?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay. So before we go to the diabetes myths versus facts, so in the trend, you didn't include the intermittent diet.
Oh, that is true. So I left off some of the popular diets, the fad, I don't want to call them fad dieting, intermittent fasting, keto. Those are still 2 really big diet trends we're seeing. So there was a study in the fall that came out of one of the universities in California about intermittent fasting. And they found, and this is not the first time this result's been, that the results aren't great for weight. They're pretty similar to reduced calorie dieting. What I was wondering, because the way that our body absorbs nutrients, particularly protein, would there be muscle loss? And they did see some muscle loss in the people in the study, because you can only absorb so much protein as protein in one sitting. So if you're only eating in a few hours, there is some research with intermittent fasting on longevity, certainly. But I think in terms of weight, the jury's sort of out. Anecdotally, I have some people I see who do really well on it. They don't over snack at night because they stop eating. But I have other people who come in and they say, well, I only eat, in this window, I don't eat these foods, and I don't understand why I don't lose weight. And then we get them started on breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And all of a sudden their blood sugar goes down, they start losing weight, and everything is better. So I think it's probably more individual. It's probably not going to work for everybody.
That's probably right. So I actually did 2 sessions with Dr. Erkan from Kriyas, from our bariatric program, and it was 2 sessions back-to-back on intermittent diet. Now, he and I, we've been doing that personally. Now, my BMI can be anywhere from 26 to 28, depends on the time of the year. So with COVID, it's more on 28 than the 26. So, and from my prior experience, it was actually extremely useful for me. And then there was a little interruption with the COVID. Now I started again, finished my 2 weeks. My experience is I feel a lot better. Like I do like Monday through Friday, like almost 18, 19 hours. I drink, well, I know that nutritionists don't like hearing that, but I can tell you, like, I mean, in the office they see me, so I have zero problem going through the day. I don't even think about food. I think one problem that for me was just like, I have to eat. Like, it was in my mind that it just keep reminding yourself. And then my energy level actually is much better during the week than the weekend or after I eat. So, I mean, I feel, and I'm keeping a log, and I'll share some of those with you and Dr. Erkan. I feel much better. So I think maybe there's some psychological like disconnect with the eating, and you know, like with the traditional moms, like my mom is Turkish, and then Italian moms, the Greek moms, and Latino moms. They said eat, and if you are fatter, you are better. So we had this issue in our head, so that we have to eat. So. And I think it's something that is happening again, that I had the same experience before. I feel a lot better. So I don't want to mislead anyone. I'm 46, I'll be 47 this month. I play tennis twice a week. So I try to keep it active, but I start gaining weight with the COVID limitations. But one solution for me was just looking into the eating habits. And making some changes, and it may not be good for everyone, but it's at least from firsthand, we have no commercial bias with what I'm saying. So my experience overall is good, and I'll share more. Like in like next 2-3 weeks, we should see some results as I'm already feeling it. So.
I think it's valid. I mean, to your point, we do know that when people are not eating, when they're fasting, your hunger signals will shut off. It is psychological because your body assumes that you have no access to food and you're starving. So rather than make you feel anxious and on edge, your hunger signals will go away. So then you don't think about food. I mean, it's something we see when people they really have no access to food. All those diet studies that were done back after World War II. It's something we see in eating disorders. As a nutritionist, or dietitian, my problem with it is the lack of nutrition. Because if you're only eating in a 4-hour window, you're not getting in all your vitamins and minerals. It's not possible. So as I just lectured on vegetables, so, I want everybody to eat 9 servings a day. And I do think, and I know this is not practical, especially in this country and sort of our food environment. If you were getting up in the morning and having some berries, and then in the middle of the day, you were having a big salad and all these vegetables, would you be hungry all day? Probably not. But once you started eating that stuff, it might lead you to other stuff. And not everybody's eating that.
Well, I think that's why it's important for people to work with a nutritionist when they're going through this, so then we can help them with the vitamin support and like whatever adjustment they need to be making. And the other thing that I find helpful is when you are able to talk to someone about the process, and certainly as you are just discussing these, you are more honest with yourself and with the person you are sharing with. So then there are a couple of stuff that I will maybe cheating a little bit. They are gone because throughout the day you feel like you can do certain things, but then all of a sudden you shouldn't be doing it. And then as you share it, it helps you to kind of have a better perspective of the situation and the reality. So if you are okay with it, I'll share it with you at the next couple of sessions.
Oh, yeah.
How it's going.
Well,
Now,
I think I was going to say, I think anytime you're sharing, so one of the things that we do from the care coordination side in scheduling the patients, their initial appointments with the dietitian is asking them for that food log, because it does have some accountability. And then if they're writing it down, and hopefully they're writing down everything, right, then they can have that honest discussion with, what am I eating? Because a lot of times we all know, if kind of like, if we didn't write it down, we didn't eat it, right? So that candy bar didn't count, or that bowl of ice cream didn't count, because I didn't write it down in my log. So it really doesn't exist. So I think there's that. And then one of the other things with the accountability, or the being hungry, or to your point, Kemal, if, you may not be hungry or think about food during the day. And I think sometimes one of the other things, and it's not really like a fad, but sometimes people just start eating at a certain time, not because they're hungry, but because they get used to sitting down in the evening and having a snack, whether they're hungry or not. It's like, oh, I'm going to watch this TV show, then I need to have a snack. And I know those are some of the things that you have to address, Amy, as you meet with your patients, and, how they can manage that. And, if they are going to have a snack, then making a good choice versus a bad choice, right?
And why are they having a snack? Are they bored? Is it habit, like you said, because they're watching TV? Are they physically hungry? I always like to see 2 to 3 hours between food and sleep, because they think it's better for digestion, especially of a lot of patients with reflux. So laying down with food, you tend to sleep better when you don't have a full stomach. So if you go to bed at 10 and you finish dinner at 8, well, then there's no need for a nighttime snack. I mean, certainly, people with diabetes who are on insulin, people with medications where they have to eat, those are different situations. But we do, so our patients do say, well, I heard that you told me I have to write down 3 days of food. And it's interesting, because sometimes people will say, I was really horrified by what I was eating when I wrote it down, because I had to think about it. And some of them, if their goal is weight loss, or their blood sugars are already better, they're already losing weight. And some of them will say, but I don't usually eat this way. And I say, well, tell me what you usually eat. And then tell me how often you eat this way, what you wrote down. It's interesting.
It's really important to see exactly what's happening, because the reality is always different than what we think is happening. So now, in case you didn't catch the first part of it, so any background noises you are hearing is coming from this monster. So while we are talking about all this, somebody is having his, like he's on the floor and then he's just kind of going crazy. Well, I apologize again, but I'm going to go back to the presentation. I know we had some questions around diabetes and kind of like a fact check, right? So let's see what we have there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So myths versus facts. We're going to talk about all of the things that people come in and talk about, and things they're worried about diabetes. So if you found out you're pre-diabetic or you are diabetic, is it because you gained weight? Is it because you drink soda? Does it mean you can never eat a banana again? Which you can have bananas unless you're allergic to them. So those are all the things we're going to talk about. Probably some of the most common myths that we hear. All right, so the first one is, my obesity caused me to get diabetes. And this is false. Weight gain is a risk factor. And it is true that if you're overweight and you have diabetes, or are prone, that's the key, prone to diabetes, losing 5 to 7% of your weight can help lower your risk. However, there are plenty of people out there who are overweight and obese who have no blood sugar problems and will never have blood sugar problems, because their body doesn't have that tendency. 30% of people with type 2 diabetes are actually normal weight. So it's something that sometimes people get very upset about. They think, oh, people always say, they talk to me, well, I'm not overweight. How can I have diabetes? So it's something that I never want people to feel guilty about because they gain weight. It's a part of it. We can work on it to make it better. And it does happen that people lose a lot of weight, but their diabetes doesn't always go away. Because again, if everybody in your family has diabetes, you may have other risk factors, unfortunately.
And I do see that with our bariatric program, some patients who have high BMI, they don't necessarily have high A1C.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know the percentage, but I see some of them on a regular basis. All right, so what's our second fact check?
So drinking, so I hear this one a lot, but I don't drink soda. Or is it my soda? Is it because I drink soda every day? I drink 3 Pepsis a day. That's what caused me to get diabetes. This is also false. This is another one where there's a link, sugary beverages. So this would be soda, juice, sweet tea, fruit punch, lemonade. So not just soda. They're linked to high blood sugar, but on their own, they don't cause diabetes. Do they cause weight gain? Yes. If you're prone to diabetes and you gain weight from drinking a lot of sugary beverages, there's the link there. If you have diabetes, they will raise your blood sugar very fast. It's fantastic if you're having a low blood sugar. So they're not part of a healthy diet. So as somebody without diabetes, I should not be drinking a lot of soda just because I don't have diabetes. There's nothing in there for you that's doing me any good. It's sugar and chemicals, basically. So, and this really goes along with all sugary things. Having a high sugar diet is not the one factor that caused you to get diabetes. And I hear it all the time from my patients. I was eating a candy bar a day, that's how I got diabetes. And no, it's a variety of factors. Any comments, questions on that one?
Well, I think that how much they drink is important here, right?
How much, and it goes back with the other one too, that there are people who gain a lot of weight because they drink a lot of soda, but they're not going to end up with diabetes. And if you're prone to diabetes and you're drinking a little bit here now and then, maybe once a month at a party, it's probably not that big of a deal. If you have diabetes, we don't ever want you to have regular soda, ever, unless you're having a low, because it will spike it. But yes, if you're drinking like 10 a day, that's a problem.
Yeah, right now, like with my diet, Amy, I actually don't have any diet soda or, well, okay, so you see I'm lying again. So I do have one like Red Bull, but that's it. I mean, okay, that's okay, just grace that, okay. So, but I used to drink a lot of Coke and I don't anymore.
Oh, well, that's good. That's really good. Yeah. So, and I think, when people who, with diabetes aside, if you're drinking a soda, you have to think about it. This is a treat. Soda does not fill you up. So if I go out to eat and I'm having a meal and I get a soda, and back pre-COVID, when you could go out to eat and they bring you all these refills when you finish your soda, you might drink 600 calories of soda, but it doesn't take up space in your stomach. So you're going to eat the same amount of food. So it is something to pay attention to. You brought up a point about diet soda. I do have people who come in regularly and say they know they have to stop drinking diet soda because it raises their blood sugar. And that is not true. Diet soda does not cause weight gain, does not cause high blood sugar. That's been proven. Might it make you possibly eat more other foods? The jury's out on that if it causes cravings. There were some possible questions on artificial sweeteners. Do they affect the metabolism or the metabolism of other foods, the way you break down other foods that you eat with it? Small study still on that. But by itself, diet soda isn't a healthy food. So if I have diabetes and I can't drink anything but water and unsweetened coffee and unsweetened tea, I might want to have a Diet Coke every once in a while. It's not going to raise my blood sugar. It's not healthy, so I shouldn't do it all the time. But it's not going to raise my blood sugar. And it's been pretty much proven it's not going to cause cancer either. So just don't drink like 10 a day.
All right, so our next one is, do I have to be on a special diet for my diabetes?
So this is another common one too, that I can't afford to be on this diet. I can't eat like everybody else. The way that people with diabetes should be eating is the way that everybody's supposed to eat. And that goes in with supposed to, because if I've been diagnosed with diabetes and I met with my dietitian and I know that I need to have my fruits and my vegetables, and I'll hold up my diabetes plate. So I need, and I can't see, here we go. So I know I've got to do half my plate vegetables and I have to have protein and starch, but the rest of my family is having McDonald's for lunch every day. Well, they're not supposed to be eating like that. You're not the one in the wrong. They're the one in the wrong. So it's the same as everybody else. Fruit fits. Vegetables are really key with diabetes. Protein, whether it's vegetarian protein or meat. Whole grains. So you can have bread as diabetic. Healthy fats, and then limiting refined carbohydrates. So not a lot of white bread. And not a lot of saturated fat. So not a lot of beef, not a lot of pork, not a lot of lamb. So no special diets, no special food.
You know, the other thing that I see that usually, like I see this on the obesity side with the bariatric, when we have this replacement of the diet, meal prior to the surgery, they're like, oh, I can pay. Well, you are eating more than that. This is a replacement. So it's not like you're eating additional. So some people have the misunderstanding of like special diet versus like I'm going to eat whatever I have, then I'm going to have a special diet on it. On top of it, yeah, it becomes expensive in that.
It is. Or when they go on a diet and then they buy all this new food. Well, I have to buy this, and rather than just eating their real food in smaller quantities and maybe measuring it.
And a lot of times with fruits and vegetables, you get a better deal, right? If you buy more in bulk. So if you buy a bag of apples versus one or two single apples, or you go to farmers markets, or in the spring and summer, if you go to the local stands where you can get it from people that are growing it locally.
True.
And so then you know that it's not it doesn't have a lot of preservatives on it either. So that's good that it's fresher.
Maybe for the spring we can do a little like a garden challenge, so we can plant some. Like I do it every year, so if you guys are up for it, I can do it with you.
Yeah, we do a garden every year. I put some of the stuff in the freezer so that I have it as well. I mean, we grow our own tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers.
Fresh mints almost the entire year.
Yeah.
A garden challenge.
Your garden.
We're I my vegetables don't always do so well. I don't have a lot of sun. Although we do have this nice space next to the building. You could put in some community garden.
We'll have a United Medical garden.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
that's a little tricks there, so that you don't need a lot of stuff. Like even though big kind of like pot container, wooden containers. Even here, like I have enough space here, but I still kind of like it on a what do you call them, like a vegetable garden bed. So it's pretty cool. But it may be interesting for some people if they want to start doing it. Even if you live in the city, you can do it.
Well, and you can do container gardens too in the city.
Right.
I mean, I always grow herbs, basil and rosemary and thyme every year in containers. And I grew peppers and eggplant this year in containers.
Right. So our next one is low carb diet. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, a low carb diet will cure my diabetes. So this is what not everybody, but probably 95% of the new people who are newly diagnosed will say, well, I know I have to give up all carbs. So I gave up bread and rice and pasta. And yes, their blood sugar goes down pretty quickly. How long are they going to stay on that? How long are they going to be with no carbs? Any guesses?
A couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe 3 months. Sometimes it's back to, we see that first A1C comes back and it might go from like 9.5 to 6, and it's amazing. But then it's the holidays, or it's their birthday, or everybody's having cake and crackers, and then they go crazy. So carbohydrates, your brain can only use carbs, your muscles use carbs. For exercise, sports, we really like carbohydrate. So they are, 40 to 50 at the most, 40 to 45% of calories. It's actually all the way to 65%, but for diabetes, it's usually too high. 40 to 50% of calories should come from carbohydrates. Now remember, that's fruits, vegetables, dairy, whole grains, ideally intact grains. So if you think about pasta and bread, that comes from flour. Flour is milled, so it's going to spike blood sugar a little bit faster. So it's not as good. Doesn't mean you can't have it. It's not as good as something like farro or quinoa or bulgur, where you have this intact grain. The more whole food is, the less processed it is, the slower it is to digest, the slower blood sugar goes up. So carbohydrate, and on our diabetes plate, there's a carb. There is a room for it. So it comes into a healthy part of the diet. Certainly, sometimes people come in and they're eating too much carbohydrates. So if you go to the olive carb,
because we were sharing the screen, the PowerPoint takes the most part. Do you want to just show that?
show that again? Yeah. So this is a diabetes plate. So this is a fajita or a burrito, something like that, I think. So really the key is the portion. So half the plate is vegetables. I think these are peppers and onions with some type of protein. And now these look like white tortillas, not what I would prefer. I'd rather you have corn that's not fried or whole wheat. Not necessarily low carb, because the low carb ones are generally white flour with a lot of fake stuff in there. So again, you're not getting the vitamins in the real food.
What's in the white corner again?
Here?
Yeah.
That's a tortilla, I think.
Oh, tortilla. Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's supposed to be like a burrito.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It doesn't say, but that's been my guess.
Okay.
So you certainly can have that carb in there, and it's healthy. A lot of people are fearful, and when we think about carbs, we don't necessarily think about fruits and vegetables and bulgur and farro and quinoa and sweet potatoes. We think about crackers and bread and cookies and pretzels and all of those foods. So, and those should be the minimum. They're not doing anything for you in terms of nutrition. Again, it goes back to that functional food. So 80 to 90% of your diet should have a purpose. It should do something for your body. 10 to 20% are things like a piece of birthday cake, a glass of wine, coffee creamer, ice cream, potato chips, bacon. So things that don't do anything good for you, but there's quality of life. We are meant to enjoy our food. And you might like bacon. All right. So everyone in my family has diabetes, and so do a lot of my friends, and it's really not that serious. This, unfortunately, we do see because diabetes is really, really growing. So people, my sugars have been high for a little bit, is what we hear. And this is absolutely false. So everyone in your family might have it because it is genetic, and we see it out Delaware. There's a lot of people with diabetes in Delaware. Diabetes is really growing. There's millions of people in this country with diabetes, but it's very serious. Having diabetes doubles your risk of a heart attack. So that, again, that goes right back to the last slide with carbs, where I'm just going to eat bacon because it's no carbs. Well, guess what? You're more at risk for heart attacks. If you eat bacon every day, your heart's not very happy with you. So if every 1% your A1C is elevated is equal to roughly a 10% risk of heart attack or stroke. So that is very serious. Now, to be more optimistic, people with diabetes can live a long and healthy life. So one of the things that we used to talk about in class is there's no vacation from diabetes. So it's really tiring. And you have to think about it every day, which is really tiring. But if you do think about it every day, and if you get these habits, sort of these default meals that you work in, I check my blood sugar so I know how these foods react. You can fit this stuff in occasionally, and you can live a very long and healthy life without serious complications.
So I have a question for you guys. Mm-hmm. Again, I make a lot of references to the bariatric program because I do case conferences every day. So now the first, one of the first things that I check with the team is whether or not patient has the blood work done, which is for A1C and TSH. And then I see the A1C number mostly higher where we are, even though those patients do work with our nutritionists in some cases, They may need to be on medication. They're not being addressed by the primary care in some cases. So we send them to our program director, Dr. Handal, in many cases if they're over 9. And we check and see, in some cases, patients are not taking their medication. And but one of the questions maybe I have, and we may not have the answer, but just because I think last Friday, patient who's on the younger side, her BMI A1C was 50, like 1.5. 1.5.
Yeah.
And no show a couple times for the nutrition follow-ups, no show for Dr. Handal twice. And when I see the 15 and I like, when we check the patient's record, like I have almost like a palpitation from just looking at it. And then you know, so every once in a while I call the patient in the case conference and I call the patient and she's just fine. Like she's like, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna show up for my appointment. What makes someone not care about something that's so risky for their life?
Like there's actually a lot of research that when people are diagnosed with diabetes, there's a big emotional factor. And one of the recommendations from the American Diabetes Association is that there is counseling with a new diagnosis of diabetes, which rarely happens because there's shock, there's denial, there's anger. And we see, especially if this was a young person who had diabetes for a while, it's a lot of work. So it's easy to get into that denial. And when your blood sugar is really high, you get used to it. So you don't feel any different. And I'm guessing if her blood A1C is over 15, she's probably supposed to be on insulin. So checking your blood sugar it hurts.
Well, you know, she didn't know that she had high.
Oh, she didn't know she had diabetes?
Because she came to the bariatric program and then we ordered the blood work. And then this is the first time she finds out that her A1C was 15.1 to make that. So, well, we have similar situations, similar examples. It's not like 15, but I see A1C like 11, 12, 10, and then PCP didn't address it or they have never had any blood work. Sometimes they do blood work and they don't have the A1C checked. So it's, I personally, like every day I see it, I'm paying more attention and I'm maybe more concerned about it. But it's kind of amazing when I talk to some of these patients, so they really just don't care.
And I think I don't want to think about it. You know, I don't know if I have it. And I do see people where they'll say, no, I don't have diabetes. My doctor sent me for borderline. And I look back and I see, well, actually your A1C has been over 9 for like 4 years now. Well, my doctor never told me that. I'm like, but so you're here now. Let's talk about it because you haven't been borderline for a long time. But I think it's that denial that goes into that. And if you feel fine, you know, you don't feel any different. And I don't want to think about all this work I'm going to have to do. I might die. I do have people come and they motivated. They're very upset. They don't want to lose their vision or a leg or have a heart attack. I mean, they worry about these things and they're motivated to make changes. But sometimes, and you probably see this in the bariatric change, they do make changes, but then the changes get too hard. So I referenced fast food earlier. So if I'm really working hard to bake chicken every week and steam some broccoli and cook my sweet potatoes, but my family's ordering pizza and having fast food, that's my chicken and sweet potato and broccoli is going to get really old when I'm sitting next to everybody and they're eating pizza and drinking Coke.
And one of the things we hear too, Amy, right, when we're scheduling or rescheduling appointments or someone who's maybe seen you in the past and maybe, you know, things aren't going well and their hemoglobin A1C is high again. So their PCP does send them back to you. And we try to schedule them for an appointment. Sometimes their response is, well, I don't need to see the dietitian. I've seen them in the past and I know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, to your point earlier, I know what to do, but am I going to do it? And so I know you try to help meet them where they are. and help them make, the changes that they feel they can make at that time, and then work on additional changes, right? That's all part of the goal setting that you and the other dietitians do. So it's not like they come in one time and they have to change everything in that initial visit. So I didn't know if you wanted to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. I think that's important for patients to know.
It is. It's a good point that we meet people where they are. People want sometimes a structured meal plan. And I always say, I don't do that because I'm not teaching you anything. You can get that from a magazine. If I just give you a month's worth of meals. Let's see where you are. Where are you struggling? Do you feel like you're not ready to make any changes? Well, let's think about when you are ready, what could be. Can you try eating a salad with your lunch? Can you try packing a healthier snack? Can you try packing lunch, for our teenagers and our kids in school? Can you try packing 4 days a week? What small change can we make? And then patients can feel successful and go from there. I'm not perfect. I am eating ice cream and things I'm not supposed to be eating on a regular basis.
Oh, hold on. Did you say you're not perfect?
I'm sorry, I burst your bubble. Nobody can eat perfectly all the time, but if we keep trying to improve it, and we understand that. So, if we can troubleshoot, and if you just, I know what to do, but I'm having a hard time, my blood sugars are like this. Well, let's troubleshoot. When do they go up like this? Well, what if we try adding an egg to your oatmeal? Is that going to help balance it out? Let's try that for a couple of days. Check your blood sugars, check back in, send me a message through the portal, and we'll go from there. And then we'll see what else can we fix. Then we'll move on to lunch. So it is important. You're right, because we don't expect everybody to be perfect.
Well, from the personal side again, my advice to our patients in medical ACO, when you have nutritionists on your side, especially if you have diabetes, it is crucial. So we are not, again, this is not about getting new patients for us, right? So we are not marketing for new patients. This is our, we have a program that's accredited by the Diabetes Association, and we don't have to do any of these. We can just say, okay, we'll just sit home. Like right now, all of us, they're at their home. My dog is just waiting for me to pay attention to him, all that stuff. We have our dietitians, especially now with the telemedicine, they are more available. I can tell you just from, again, my personal experience, I benefit from these personally because I make changes with what I eat, how I eat, and also it's kind of constant. So like telling you guys certain things that maybe like going out of my diet, this just sharing actually is very helpful. So a lot of education, a lot of knowledge that we get. So please make sure that if you have diabetes, come and see our nutritionist and then let them help you. That this is not just something that you can deal with. You can deal with this on your own. So you definitely need support, and that's kind of our main goal here.
Okay.
Right. So now I think this is the end of our session. Maybe Donna, so we kind of covered the next step. So we want them to come and get help from you guys. Anything you would like to add, Amy, Donna?
I would say yes, come see us, call, schedule, send a message. If your doctor is asked before you, I don't want to see the dietitian, they're very scary. We're not very scary. I already said I'm not perfect.
Most of them are easygoing, so but all of you are. I mean, you guys are
We're all very easygoing.
just wonderful.
So our next webinar is in 2 weeks. It's January 27th, and Tim will be here, our physical therapist. We're going to talk about exercise. So totally change from food, change in topic. He's going to talk about activity trackers. So like I have my Garmin on, so all the different ways that you can do with that. And I'm going to talk about home exercise, since people are avoiding the gym and have been since March, but it doesn't I'm still hearing that I can't go to the gym, so I can't exercise. Well, it's been a long time since we can't go to the gym, so we got to figure out how to exercise at home, and it's cold outside. So I did some research on home stuff that I will share in 2 weeks.
And did you get your vaccination for COVID?
Me or Donna?
Amy,
Friday.
Friday, Donna, tomorrow.
I'm going to get mine on Friday as well. So yes.
And please get vaccinated. It's extremely important, guys. So hopefully we'll have more people who are going to get their vaccination done, and we can be free again.
And then you can go back to the gym. See?
There you go. One step closer to the gym.
Uh-oh, don't scare people away.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again, Amy and Donna. Thank you for providing us all the knowledge and sharing these with us. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with the diabetes, but we have almost 3 times a week different events. Just try to catch us with those events, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.